Well, welcome everybody. I'm John from Civic Review. Thanks for joining this webinar. Our topic is Beyond Deadlines, a panel on renewal strategies and challenges. So I thought it would be fun for a webinar to have a panel with some of your peers and just ask questions and hear back from them so that we can kind of learn from each other a little bit. Um, and hopefully the panelists even learn from each other. So thank you very much, panelists, for obliging. I'm going to introduce the names of each one, and then I'll just go around and let you guys introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourself. So our panelists include um, Angela Katoa from American Fork, Jamie Logan from Grain Valley, Jonathan Dutro from the Southeast Utah Health Department, and Amy Johnson from the city of Nibley, Utah. So, yeah, if you we'll start with Angela, since you're at the top of our list. Do you just want to introduce yourself? Tell us how long you've been, where you're at, what types of renewable records you deal with, and also, just for fun, what's your favorite non-work hobby?
Okay, so I work at American Fork City. I've been with American Fork for 10 years. I've done business licensing and I do utility billing along with that. I've done both of them the whole time I've been here. We use Civic Review for business licensing and love Civic Review. Something about myself that I like to do outside of work. I would say sleep. No, I have 5 kids and I stay really busy with their activities or sports. And I'm a grandma of 4 grandkids. So I guess that's what I like to do.
Nice. Thank you. Jamie,
Yep.
you're up next.
Okay, I'm the city clerk for a city in Missouri. 16,000 is our population. I've been doing this almost 6 years. Our renewable licenses are business licenses, liquor licenses, landlord registrations. So I deal with those each year. And then the things I like to do outside of work, I like going to the lake with my family or playing pickleball.
Nice. Jonathan.
All right. Jonathan Dutrow. I'm an environmental health scientist with the Southeast Utah Health Department. We're kind of down in the corner of Utah, made up of Carbon, Emery, and Grand counties. I've been here for about 7 years. And this is, our first year using Civic Review. So this is our first renewals. So we're learning a lot. But so far, it's a great system compared to what we had been doing. So type of renewables we have are restaurants and food trucks, body art, which makes up tattoos and tanning, public lodging facilities and public pools. And yeah, there's a few others, but those are the main few. So let's see, something that might what I do for fun is another job. I own and operate a small backcountry yurt operation up here in the LaSalle Mountains, primarily for winter recreation. So a lot of backcountry skiers come in. So this is a busy, fun time of year for us.
Cool. And Amy.
Hi, my name's Amy Johnson. I work for the city of Nibley as a treasurer. I've been there almost 4 years, and I get to oversee the business licensing and also assist with dog licensing. And we've been using Civic Review for a long time. We've been using it for about 2.5 years now. And we love it so much, and we continue to find new ways to use it and make our organization run more efficiently. And we appreciate being John's neighbor.
Yeah, for better or worse, all right, I guess. Okay, great. Thanks for the intros. Next, I just want to set the stage with our discussion. If each of you could take a turn and just summarize your renewal timeline. If you have multiple records, if you have some that renew in July and some that renew in January or whatever, you could just kind of pick one, but give us an idea kind of what your timeline looks like. For example, when do you send out renewal letters or have Civic Review send out those renewal emails? Then they renew on a certain date. And then more importantly, kind of what is the late fee structure? Do you have late fees and when do you add them? So yeah, go ahead. We'll go with Jamie. Jamie, if you want to
Yeah.
summarize yours.
So our license period is in the middle of the year. So it's July 1st to June 30th of each year. I stagger my renewals just slightly due to the amount that I have. But my occupational licensing or business licensing, I send out in April, or I have Civic Review send out the first one in April. They have until June 30th to renew those. So they have plenty of time in there to come in and see me if they have trouble or do it online. I have a very small handful that come in person anymore. The platform has been amazing for us. Our late fees start July 16th, and we do it every month until November 16th. So they do get 10% late fee per our code the first time, and then 5% each month after that.
Cool. Jonathan, you want to go through yours?
Sure. So yeah, this year was a little bit different. Historically, we've started renewals in November, but we were a little crunched for time this year, so they went out December 1st. And then we're kind of giving people a little extra time this year since we were late. So February 1st will be our first late fee, then March 1st and April 1st. We have a late fee of first, and so well, we're trying something new this year. But yeah, our late fees of $25 for the first 2 months, and then the last month is those late fees plus 2 times the permit fee. So we're hoping that catches people's attention and gets a little better compliance. And then after that, we'll send these to collections. So.
What was the challenge behind, or the reason behind changing that late fee structure?
Yeah, I think part of it, and we're hoping that just with Civic Review itself, that will kind of pick up a lot of our non-payments. But we've just had kind of a history of having several that just didn't pay, and it was hard to get a hold of them. So we're hoping this kind of help solve that problem. So
Amy, how about you?
So our renewal timeline with business licensing is that business licenses go for calendar years. So we begin sending out renewal requests at the beginning of November and give them a couple of months to become compliant. And then on February 1st, if they have not yet renewed, then we do assess a late fee. And then generally around the end of February, if they haven't renewed, I close out the license and let them know.
Angie, it looks like your mic is probably working now.
Oh, sorry. So we send our renewals out if everything's set, usually in the middle of November. 15th is what we shoot for. A couple times I've had to delay it a little bit, but around the 15th of November. And then the late fees hit them in February 1st. I actually want to look into possibly adding another late fee later on. I think it would be helpful, but we do a lot of work on our renewals. Civic, I can honestly tell when your messages go out for renewals because we get another influx in. But then we do phone calls. We do another phone call before we will just usually by April, I will deactivate them if they haven't renewed. And then we send code enforcement out and issue a citation.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll probably ask more questions around that. So before we go into our main questions for the webinar, if you guys, those of you watching, if you have questions, go ahead and just send a chat message in. And Heather will kind of organize those for me. And if we have time at the end, then we'll go through some of your questions just in the order they're received. So, yeah. Or Heather, you can interrupt if you think it's applicable to the topic that we're discussing as well. So, okay. So as for the panelists, I'm just going to ask a question. We don't need to make everybody take a turn answering it. I invite you guys to just speak up if you have something to say. Okay, so question number one. First of all, what do you do to stay mentally sane through the stretch of the renewal season?
Honestly, I reach out to Civic Review way more than they probably want me to. That is what I do. I get a lot of support from you guys and I appreciate it, but I don't know. It's a crazy time. Just staying on top of it keeps you sane.
I would say Starbucks, that's helpful. And then I
Mhm.
also have a percent complete that I do. So I kind of keep track of how many I have of, especially on the business licensing side, I have just over 1,000. So I kind of keep track of the percent complete. So I'm like, okay, I'm at 40% complete. This is good. This is better than it ever was last year. So I kind of challenge myself a little bit from year to year to see if I can get them done even sooner. I know we're going to talk about code enforcement later, but having that as a tool has helped my percent completes plus Civic review. It helps that number improve year after year.
Okay, there's
I
nothing
think
else.
I,
Oh,
I think
John,
this
go
year
ahead.
we're. Oh, I was just gonna say. I think this year we're just embracing the chaos. Yeah, because this is our first year. We're getting. We basically have to approve each one of these because we're getting new information in for each of our permit holders because we asked for a lot,
Yeah.
kind of more data than we were collecting originally. And so that's been where things are slowing down now for sure. But that was keeping us on our toes for a while.
All right. Okay, next question is going to be what strategies have you used that have been most effective in ensuring compliance and timely renewals? Um, and also like what strategies have you tried that haven't worked? Because I'm sure there are people watching who maybe are doing something that's not working as well as, so kind of a lessons learned as well.
One thing I wanted to say that I just thought of that we added this year a couple of questions because we were having problem with like changes being made to a building and not knowing because they would just automatically go in and renew their license. So we've added the question in there, have you made any changes to your building? And it's helped us get on top of so many individuals that have like done things without permits or like I had to touch every single renewal because I had to approve it. But I was able to there was probably 20 that I sent on to the building department that then we didn't renew because they had done changes to their building without permits. So that was super helpful in Civic
Gotcha.
review.
I know
Um,
I touched on it a little bit with the code enforcement officer, but everyone needs a Ray in their city. So Ray is on this call too, but he is amazing. When it comes time for that last reminder before the late fee comes out, Ray is standing here staring at me. Do you have my list? And I'm like, you are amazing. So inside city limit licenses, they have to have a license. So if you're from out of town coming in, we need you to have a license if you're working in our city, but I'm sitting here staring at a McDonald's across the street. If they don't have a license, they need to. So Ray will take all of those and start his violation notices saying, hey, this could become a codes enforcement issue. The first time they get those, they may be like, okay, yeah, whatever, until he hits like the second and third one, and then they're coming to court. When they have to come to court, no one's interested in that. Well, can I just pay now? Well, yeah, you can pay now. That's awesome, but you still have to go to court. So it's been an amazing deterrent for us to have Ray, who is on top of all of these. Before, a lot of it was just letters after letters, and something about city clerk is not intimidating, but the minute you hear code enforcement officer and people in our town know Ray, good or bad, you either love Ray because he's helping you, or you're like, man, he's on my case, this guy. So
yeah.
I'm very thankful for Ray.
I feel like we have a few different strategies that we use to ensure compliance. One of them is that we kind of organize things according to, we want to start with our cheapest and least time consuming options, and then we kind of work our way to more expensive options. But some of the cheap things that we can do is we can kind of, using the reports that Civic Review offers, we can pull all the phone numbers together and just of all the people who have not yet complied with the requirements, and we can do that from the saved view sheet on Civic Review. And then we can send all of those people a text message and tell them, you have not yet renewed your license. Please check your email for a renewal email. That's a really quick and easy way for us to ensure compliance. Another thing that we can do is we can just we can push the send renewal request button, and that gives everyone an email. We'll just get on there and just send them to our list of people who have not yet renewed. And then next we can send them individual emails through the portal, through the Civic Review portal. And then we can kind of move to more expensive options, which include phone calls or mailed letters or door hangers. So there's a lot of things that we can do to ensure compliance, but I like to start with the cheapest and easiest ones.
What are you using, Amy, for the text messages?
We're just using a messaging service called Pidge for that. And it's just so easy to extract those phone numbers and then just, send all of them a quick message. It literally takes 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, right. I forgot it was Pidge. If any of you want to reach out to me, I can get you in contact with that company. I know some of the guys from that company too. Anybody else want to chime in on this question?
Yeah, I think historically phone calls have been the most effective for us. We haven't had a great kind of protocol for when that happens or how it happens. But right now, I think the little messaging service in the Civic Review portal is everybody I've talked to at the organization is really like that because outside of just a kind of a form letter that they get, that personalized message that says, "Hey." And we've been doing that here recently with some of the ones that we're still missing, just to write them a little note and say, it's time to pay. And that's been pretty effective. So
Have any of you done anything with include anything with the utility bill or yeah. No. All right, next question. Are there any business categories or industries that you found to be chronically non-compliant? And if so, how do you address those challenges? No patterns.
I wouldn't say industries for us. I would say individuals. I feel like it's just the same individuals that I have to stay on top of to get their stuff renewed, which is irritating, but not necessarily industries.
So what do you do when it comes to the individuals? I mean, how do you handle those?
I used to be a lot nicer. I've gotten a little bit harder because I don't have the time to do it. So we will call. The girls will help me call out that are out front. And then if they don't come in, then I send them a 14-day notice letter. They have 14 days to come in compliance. And if they don't, then we send code enforcement out. They get cited, they go to court.
What were you saying when you say you were too nice before? Like, what do you think has changed?
Because we would call and call and call, send a letter, send another letter, call. You know what I mean? It was just, and then I was like getting to the point of this is so many. I'm giving everybody so many chances. We have to have a better system, so we don't do it anymore. Like I call them, we'll leave a message. Most of them are really good now. And I think once they got used to Civic Review, there was a learning curve for sure. And there's still a few people that can't do the online stuff, so they'll still come into the office and do it. But I just feel like we were just giving them way too many opportunities. And I'm like, I couldn't stay on top of it. Giving them, phone calls. And I'm like, so now we have a better system. We'll call, we'll leave a message. No response, we send the letter.
Anybody else want to chime in on this? Handling in repeat offenders. Okay,
I could chime in.
Sure, Amy.
All right. I think we try really hard to just document exactly all of our attempts that we've made to contact them. If we have tried to make phone attempts, if we have tried to text them, if we have sent them emails through the portal, if we have really done some diligent effort and then sent a paper letter and still no compliance, then we feel very comfortable shutting it down. And but we just want to make sure we have it documented so that when they call us later and say, what happened to my business license? We can say, we did this, and this, and you didn't respond. So we closed your license and you'll have to reapply. And the reapplication process is a little bit of a pain in the butt. So I think it motivates them to do a better job next time.
All right. Aside from what Civic Review does, because most of the people here understand, Civic Review will send these automatic emails out and everything. What some of you have spoken to this a little bit, so maybe if we can go into a little detail there on what do you do after a Civic Review is done sending these out. So after the last late fee is added, some of you mentioned code enforcement and everything. Do do you start sending code enforcement out before the late fees, or do you just wait until that cadence is finished out? So maybe you just want to explain to us kind of what your process is at that point.
For us, at the first late fee, code enforcement is involved. Like I said, Ray's at my door July 15th. So he's ready to go, and it may take a little bit to get through some of the list, but people start renewing pretty quickly after that. Anyone that's outside of city limits, I go and deactivate them right then and there. So if a concrete company wants to come in and they're going to be doing a job or some type of construction, they're required to get a permit so that when our permit technician sees a new permit come in for ABC company to put on a new deck or something, she's like, no, you don't have a license, you need to renew. So at that point, I send the renewal emails. So that kind of cuts down my list pretty quickly and gets the yuck out of there. If just like the follow-up calls, and then Ray helps me with the inside city limit ones. And I do a lot of the emails like others have mentioned through Civic Review, through the portal, like, hey, it's almost, late fee time. You have a couple more days. Is there anything I can do to help you renew? Hey, it looks like you started. I try and help them through it. Especially the ones that I know intend to do it, because we've been doing this a few years. But they're just a little bit slower. So a little bit of hand holding also.
Did you kind of work with Ray on telling him what to say? I mean, how did you kind of set that process with him?
He has a process actually for those that have violations. If it's tall weeds, if it's property that is just in disarray, whatever it is. So it's his normal code enforcement letter, but it's telling them they need to renew their business license. So he throws in that specific verbiage. But other than that, he has his process of, hey, we're doing the notice of, hey, you're going to get in trouble. And then, hey, you're getting in trouble. And I think Angie mentioned the repeat offenders. So those don't even get those friendly ones anymore. They go straight to it because it is the same people every single year, not industry. It is 100% just the same people. So, no, he has his process and he sticks to it. So one person can't say that they're treated differently than another one.
At what point do you just close those inside? Do you ever close those
No.
inside city limits?
No, because they are supposed to have a license. So, and we will back bill. So if there's a particular one I have in mind, this past year, they ended up paying like 4 years worth of licensing because they finally were able to renew. They had some tax issues. We make people pay, you have to pay your taxes or you can't get a license, that kind of thing. So they finally paid their taxes. And so they had to pay 4 years worth all at once. So no, we keep a running tab.
Yeah.
We close ours out at some point. We work with code enforcement on it, but we hit them with, because they'll get cited through code enforcement. Then we also add an operating without a business fee onto their application when we make them reapply because we've closed it out.
Okay.
How much is that?
What
is it a percentage of their
It's $100
license fee?
right now.
Okay. Okay.
We have only recently hired a code enforcement officer, and so we don't really yet have procedures in place about when he is going to get involved, but I'm excited to hear from these other cities to learn from them.
That's what I like to hear. Okay, let's move on, unless somebody else has anything to say. Okay, let's talk about cooperation with other departments. So how did you get cooperation with these, like code enforcement, police, maybe if they get involved, or fire, or let's just talk in general, even when it doesn't come to just late renewals, but just in your job, your job is to collaborate with these other departments with new applications and gather reviews and everything. And sometimes that can be a challenge. And so what strategies have you guys put in place to get more cooperation from other departments to help you get your job done?
The smartest thing we did is we have a compliance meeting every month. And I got this idea we were at Business License Conference, and I think Sandy had said that they did this. So the first Tuesday of every month, the building department, fire department, code enforcement, zoning, where we all meet. And so then everybody's able to bring up like what the issues are. We can stay on top of what we think we're doing good or not. And typically our city attorney will attend this meeting as well. So we can run things past her as well. But that was the smartest thing we have done, because everyone's on the same page. We're all working together. And if there's reoccurring issues, we bring them up in that meeting.
Cool.
We use the feature inside Civic Review. I think that John and his team built for us, but anytime a new license or renewing license comes in, I have to review it. Building official reviews it, and our planning and zoning. And then on renewals, so does code enforcement. So it's automated. Before, we had these papers that were floating around the office, it seemed like, for days, and you had to track them down and get all these signatures and all of these things. Now with Civic Review, it's a button. I mean, they say yes, approve, but we use the notes feature or the internal comment feature on the right if we ever have questions with each other, or it also keeps track. So next year we come up to the same one. We're like, now what did we say on that? It's right there in writing. So that has been really good for us to be able to keep at least the specific details or problem children, things like that, in place for all of us to see.
I agree with that.
All right. Next question. Besides Civic Review, can you think of a task that was previously painful regarding renewals that you found a solution to? So, I mean, as much as I like to hear you guys sing your praises or whatever, but let's hear about other things that you've had to do that you found solutions to.
Well, our city was, I'm sorry, this is kind of about Civic Review, but our city really struggled because there wasn't a way to renew your license before we implemented Civic Review. There wasn't a way to do it after hours. People had to renew their license either by mailing it into us. And this is just not the world that we live in now. People don't have checks. A lot of people don't even own checks anymore. And that's just a really difficult way to pay. So I just felt like once we implemented Civic Review, that the possibility of being able to work around your own time frame and not have to work within office hours really smooth. That was a huge problem that really got smoothed out with both dog licensing and business licensing. And also the data storage within Civic Review, that was very helpful to have ways to store the data. So sorry, I am singing your praises.
It's fine. I'll forgive you. Okay. My next question is going to single out Jonathan. He's from the health department, and most of you dealing with business licenses, particularly restaurants and food trucks and those kinds of things, have to work with the health department. And so a few questions for you, Jonathan. First of all, is there anything that you feel is a unique challenge that you face with restaurants and other health-related permit renewals?
Yeah, well, I think part of our challenge here is because we're in a tourist kind of industry area, right? And so we have a lot of restaurants that kind of come and go. For the size of our year-round population, we have a lot of restaurants, a lot of food trucks, and a lot. I think our biggest one are nightly rentals, because we also regulate public lodging, and so that's the biggest challenge for us, is keeping up with who's coming in, who's leaving. Nightly rentals change ownership, almost daily, and so keeping up with that information is probably our biggest challenge. And yeah, we work really closely. Fortunately, we have a great relationship with our county and city here, and so we're really good about sharing that information and getting updated lists of their business licensing. And we also have monthly meetings, development review team meetings for both the county and the city that we sit on. And we're fortunate, right? It's a small community, so we have everybody's cell phone number, in our phone. So if we've got questions or need something, we can always pick up the phone. So.
I would be curious to hear because a lot of people attending here that are just handling business licensing, they're also facing this challenge of short-term or nightly rentals. What are you doing right now? Kind of what are you doing to stay on top of that and keep track of them?
Yeah, I mean, actually the city and the county kind of lead the charge on that, because they kind of started that licensing before we did. So they had those lists, which we were able to kind of piggyback on as well. So that's
Um, cool. Um, okay, so from your perspective, it's nice having you here because
yeah.
um, what are any tips or advice or whatever you have for the business licensing folks uh, that could make the health department's job easier,
um,
or vice versa, I guess.
yeah. No, I think that's it really is kind of having designated workflows to how we communicate. That's made a big difference for us. We get automated DocuSign emails from the city and the county where we can sign off on all those business licenses for them, and that's really kind of streamlined that process. It wasn't that long ago that if you were applying for a business license here, you'd go pick up a paper form from the county or the city, and then you'd walk around to all the different offices to get a signature. And so, yeah, I think that having kind of streamlined workflow processes that we've kind of coordinated with, have been the most helpful.
How about from the rest of the panelists? Is there anything that you guys have done or collaborated with the health department that you found to be useful? Nothing coming to mind right now. That's okay. All right, my next question is for Amy. So Amy handles dog licenses also, or at least I think you oversee that, right? Somebody else kind of mostly
I
does the
assist
job.
and advise, but somebody else has the job. But I'm very happy to talk to you about it.
Great. So the question for you is how, you know, the number of dog licenses that Nibley has in
Mhm.
proportion to its population is extremely high. So
Yes.
what do you do to make sure that you have all of your dog owners or dogs licensed, I guess?
Well, I think we just try really hard to contact them if they are not renewing. We try to, kind of follow that process that we follow with the business licensing, where we create a list and text message them first, and then we send them the renewal request through the Civic review thing. I think it just kind of comes down to our determination to help them become compliant. And yes, we work at it. And if we have to make phone calls, we do that. If we need to send letters, we've done all of those things, trying to get compliance. And we're certainly never going to be at 100% compliance, but we do have a high compliance rate. We also, one thing that we've implemented the last few years is we do offer a free rabies clinic. Well, not free, but a rabies clinic where they can come in and do their renewal and their rabies, get their rabies shot all at once. So, and we actually just handle that right here at our community center. And we try to advertise that well so that just to encourage compliance and make it really easy. And we do that on a Saturday, kind of outside of our office hours. So I think it just really comes down to our determination and how hard we're willing to work to help them become compliant. And it just ends up in a lot of different ways of contacting them.
Something else that was that I noticed as a resident in the city of Nibley is when we filled out our utility application form or utility service agreement form. That form asks if we have a dog. It may ask how many, but I think it just asks if we have a dog. And then we got a letter after that said, you need a license.
Yes.
That's
yes.
pretty unique, I think.
Yes, I thought that was great. And that wasn't my idea. That was someone else's idea. But once we got that on our utility service application, which we also route through Civic Review, we started tracking that question. And it sure made it easy for us to get all of the new people who are moving in and help them become compliant and identify them.
Cool. Anything that you want to add, and anything else comes to mind in terms of dog licensing? Any tips or anything like that?
Just stay on it. But we've really appreciated the fact that Civic Review it helps the people to attach the record, and so they're doing the work to attach the record instead of us doing the work to attach the record. So that's been honestly one of the greatest things about it,
Hmm.
in our opinion.
Okay. Last couple questions, and then we'll go to some questions that have come in over chat. So, um, let's just talk about tools a little bit. Is there any technology, Amy, you mentioned Pidge for
Mhm.
texting has been really helpful for you guys. Do any of you guys have any other tools besides Civic Review that has kind of helped you with your job?
Yeah, I'll jump in. We use Survey 123, which is an ArcGIS program. We use that for our inspections. But there's a lot of other possibilities there that we're kind of looking forward to. We also use a workflow processor called Make, which automates emails. Now that you brought up text, I think that's something that I think we've looked into before, but that's something that we can trigger through those workflows to send out automated notifications. So yeah, those tools with Civic Review, I think have really kind of changed our organization.
All right. Last question, just kind of a blanket. Do any of you feel like there's something about business licensing that is maybe unique to your jurisdiction? No?
I'm,
All
I'm
right.
assuming that all of us are probably checking uh, the Division of Professional Licensing to make sure that when we issue a business license, that they are actually qualified to offer that service. For example, if you have an attorney who has a home office and he's obtaining a business license for that, you want to make sure that he actually did pass the bar exam, and that you're not backing him up with his business license when you don't in fact know that he's done that. I'm assuming that everyone's doing that, but but when I first started here, they were not doing that. So that's something I feel is very important. And then obviously making sure that the business is also registered through the state. That's something that we always follow up on as well, which you can do through Utah Business Search.
All right. We have a number of questions that have come through, and I'm going to get through as many as we can. First question is there a way you link the business license number to the land use permit number in order to more easily switch between the two? So have you guys done this in Civic Review?
Like land use number, are you talking about like zoning, like what the property is used for? Or I guess
Um,
that terminology isn't normal for me.
yeah, probably like a zoning permit.
So as part of our renewal process or new licensing process, they give their address, they give their information, and then we have our zoning person actually go in and code it as part of the approval process. To make sure, yes, you can have a liquor store in the middle of a residential neighborhood. That's the kind of stuff they're looking for, but we have different uses in each area. So that's how we kind of track ours, but it's done with every renewal, every new license.
Do they put that in kind of an internal field in Civic Review or
Yes.
just in comments?
Yes.
Okay,
Internal
gotcha.
field, so the citizen would not see it.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Um, how much time do they spend? Okay, so this question, sorry, I had to read this ahead of time a little bit. So they're asking how many other entities license no fee businesses. So for context, in Utah, there is a law that if you are home based and you don't impact your community, you shouldn't be charged a fee. So I think the question is, how much time do you spend in the renewal process just for them? And I assume they're coming from the fact that the city's not collecting or recouping any costs involved in the work to process these kinds of applications.
So in Missouri, similar legislation was passed within the last couple of years about home-based occupations, and our attorney took the stance that we can still do home-based occupations and require licensing at a city level. So we still do it. We still collect the same fee as anybody else, but we can't impose additional requirements. Like before, we would say you cannot have a daycare, you cannot have a hair salon, you cannot have a nail salon, that kind of thing. Now we are not allowed to say, well, you have a nail salon, just kidding. You have to go in town somewhere, get a brick and mortar. You can't do it at your house. So that's the only thing that really changed on our end, but we are still allowed to charge them for that.
We charge the businesses that we have a list of questions that people answer, and they're either an impact on the city or not. If they're an impact on the city, they are charged a fee. If they're not an impact on the city, then we don't charge them a fee. But we do still require them to license.
We're the same as you.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen it in all flavors. So
Yeah.
Ask your attorney is the official advice, right? So
Yeah.
Amy, this question's for you with regard to the texting tool. How do you export the CSV file from Civic Review to import into Pidge?
You can actually just copy and paste the numbers from the saved view. Well, you actually have to copy all of the data. And then as long as you don't copy anything extra and you're copying only the data from the saved view, you can just paste it into an Excel file and then delete the columns that don't apply. But you have to copy and paste all of the information initially. So, and then I'll just take that one column and then it's easy.
You just upload that file into Pidge. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, yep, that's exactly right.
Okay.
The file of just the phone numbers and then my message.
If anybody has questions about that, just send us a chat. We'll help you guys out with that. Okay, next question. How are you handling short-term rentals that do not provide a state tax ID, but they say they use a marketplace facilitator? They may be renting outside those platforms or selling or renting other things. Does that question make sense to everybody?
We don't have short-term rentals yet here, so we don't license them.
We have a couple of short-term rentals, and our city code really differentiates between short-term rentals that have an owner living within the home. If, say, they're renting a basement and through Airbnb or something like that, but they are living in the top floor, then we don't require a commercial business license. We only require a home occupation business license. If they're not living there, we do require a commercial business license, but we actually have not had that situation where they're doing it through a marketplace facilitator. So I don't have a good answer to that question.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
The next question is
actually, John, could you?
Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Back to that. Could you kind of reread that question? I might have some insight on that.
Okay, so how are you handling short-term rentals that do not provide a state tax ID, but state that they use a marketplace facilitator, but maybe renting outside those platforms or selling or renting other things?
Yeah.
So it sounds like maybe they're using Airbnb or VRBO, but they're also renting outside of that platform.
Yeah. No, that's stuff. I think for the most part, all of these have, we've done a pretty good job of finding most of them, and they all have state tax IDs. And outside of like searching on Airbnb and we haven't done a good audit yet of what's out there. I'm sure we're missing some, but that's about the only way you can find them is to kind of hunt around on the internet to locate some of these. So.
Okay. All right. Next question has to do with streamlining the process between different departments. So, I'm pretty sure I know who asked this question. I didn't look in the chat on the side, but basically the process is the clerk issues the business license, but maybe they were required to have a land use or a zoning permit before getting the business license, and so the business license basically they said, and those applications need to be approved and fees paid for the land use, then other department approval. Right now, our process is it sends out to every department, and there should be an order in the process. For example, complete the application, then get a land use or zoning permit with the paid fee, then get it reviewed by legal, and then pay their business license fee. So I'm guessing maybe they apply for business license and it's like, oh, now you have to go get this zoning permit. We got to wait for that to be all done before you come back here and finish the business license process. Do you guys have this kind of situation where they're bouncing back and forth between departments or anything? And how are you handling that?
We do have that, and we have one active right now, actually. It's a tow lot. Those are a special use in our city, and we require a conditional use permit. Part of our process for someone inside city limits, it goes through me first, initial review as the city clerk. Then it goes to, at the same time, building official and zoning. Zoning at that point would be like, hold up, you want to do a tow lot at this address, and they will not approve it. They reach out to that citizen. So it's their job before they do their approval to do that. Typically, they'll send notes back and say, hey, FYI, they're going through the conditional use process. The meeting with planning and zoning is on this date, because that's a whole nother thing. But it stops there because it goes to them, and I will not get something back saying, hey, it's time to final review until all teams have signed off. And if there is something pending like that, they put notes out there, and usually all of us know anyway. This one specifically, we're very aware of, but
Are they putting these notes in Civic Review somewhere?
yes,
Is there an internal field
the
that you're using, or
internal
is it just
notes.
comments? Yeah.
Yeah, the internal comments. This one specifically, it is sitting there waiting for the building official right now. It is sitting there waiting for planning and zoning or the zoning person to go through it. And this person, the tow lot, knew they were supposed to get this. They already came in and inquired about all of it. So it's like, oh, we're all on the same page. They're not going to approve it until then. So
Cool. Anybody else have anything to say on this? Okay, next one. Those that partially complete their renewals, do they or can they receive an auto response notice reminding them? Does this need to be case by case? Maybe this is kind of a Civic Review support question. Um, they do get so if they partially can complete their renewals, they continue to get the same notices as if they didn't start their renewals. So if they hit the start button and start reviewing their data, Civic Review will still send them the same kind of emails. The language may be a little bit different. It would say something like, you need to finish your renewal instead of you need to start renewal or whatever. So I hope that answers the question. How did you market this? Let me read this question ahead of time. Okay, this may be for Amy. Question is, how does she market to the citizens that it is important to license their critters? We tell ours that if there is a lost dog or animal, it helps keep animal control officers get their animals home.
That's a good way to market it. I think another thing to bring up is just safety. I mean, rabies still kills, and if we are tracking rabies numbers, which is really our city's purpose of why we license our animals, we just want to make sure that everybody's completing their rabies vaccinations, and so and that keeps everybody safe. If the dog goes out and bites somebody, we want to know that this animal is vaccinated and that it's not going to kill. So I think that's how we do use that information about returning animals, but the other thing is just about safety.
Great. I'm not really sure. Somebody asked a question about how about licenses outside of Doppel, like FFL licenses? I don't know what that is. Real estate and FINRA, insurance, etc. I'm not sure what the exact question is there. But whoever asked that can unmute themselves and clarify if you want. You may have to request to be unmuted.
this is not my question, but there's, I know some of those licensing, like FINRA, that has something to do with securities licensing, like mutual funds, stocks, bonds, things like that. It's from that industry. We don't do anything specific with checking their licensing status with their brokerage and things like that. We just make sure that if they are inside the city limits, that their brokerage itself, or like we have an Edward Jones office, for example. Edward Jones has to be licensed as that individual agent in our town. If they're from outside city limits, we do not get them. So the state of Missouri has Different things like if you're a real estate agent, if you're a doctor, things like that, you do not have to have a license in the city or in the state of Missouri. You do not have to have a city license. But certain ones like the brokerage firms, yes, they do have to have a license. They're not exempted. I don't know if that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, Janet replied. It looks like it's from Janet. She said she's just checking if you're checking for those. So, yeah, Jamie, it looks like you are. Thanks. FFL's federal firearms license, if you're selling those. Didn't know that. Thanks for the new bit of information for me.
Yeah, John, we ask
Yeah.
for, so, I mean, a little different, but we require, for restaurants, there has to be a food safety manager. And these aren't, regulated by DOPL. Everyone who works there needs food handler cards. Body artists, need have a bloodborne pathogen certificate. So these are all things that we've got to ask for this time around in renewals with the renewal questionnaire, which gives a place for people to upload those. And this won't necessarily hold up, our approval, but it gives us the ability to collect that data and send them reminders to get those taken care of. We also go and inspect these places regularly, right? And that's part of our inspection is asking for these certifications.
Mm.
But yeah, we've been happy with the ability to ask for this now during renewals. Makes our job easier.
Great. All right. I'm going to wrap things up now. So, thanks again to our panelists. Thanks for participating and sharing your knowledge, and hopefully we all learned from each other a little bit. For those of you attending and anybody else, I was really excited about this, about creating more value for you guys, not just through software, and through this community of great users and great people. If you guys have more ideas for panels or discussions that you would like to hear people talk about, or whatever, please shoot us an email and just let us know, because we hope to do more of these in the future. So, okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
Bye.